Hi, everyone, and welcome to Studio Jake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Airy. Thank you for joining me in this new year. I know I'm behind several stories, but I plan on catching up in the near future. But first, for my first video of 2024, it's going to be a two-part. I don't know why I did four. It's going to be a two-parter. So sit back and relax, and welcome to Studio Jake. All right, to begin with, for part one of my return from my season break, I'm going to be discussing my top 10 best film list of 2023. So I've already released it on my website, StudioJakeMedia.com. Link is in the description, but I wanted to go over it with all of you. Let me know what you think in the comments. Number 10 is Gran Turismo. And as I write on my website, I say Gran Turismo was probably the most fun I had with a movie this year. It was well made and revved up my excitement for the film. And that's the truth. It was the most fun I had with a movie. It was a blast. The sound editing was amazing. I like how they incorporated the real racing sounds with the sounds of the video game. It worked really well for the movie, and it was a blast. And also, the acting was very well done. This one is a little bit more tragic. Now, documentaries do not normally make it on my top 10 list. Yes, animation does. Certainly, I try to have at least one anime film on every year, especially for the last couple of years. But documentaries rarely make it. And that's just because they tend to be more informational, and I don't really see them in the same way I do a film like Gran Turismo. I tend to see documentaries as more informational. However, Take Care of Maya is number 9 on my list. The movie shines a light on the issue of medical kidnapping, and hopefully more people will stand up to the establishment that allows this evil to exist. So if you're not familiar with the story of Maya, like I said, head over to my website. There is a link. I have a full review of Take Care of Maya. It's a heartbreaking story about a girl whose mother was accused falsely by a hospital of abuse. It was basically a medical kidnapping. It was very sad. I think every parent should watch the documentary and be aware that this is a real world occurrence that you need to be aware of. Number 8 is The Sound of Freedom. This is the movie no one saw coming, including myself. But The Sound of Freedom is a surprise. The story is compelling and the performances are top notch. You will be drawn into its world and forever changed by its impact. So, whether or not you believe Tim Ballard, the issue of human trafficking is very real in today's world, and Sound of Freedom is one that definitely shines a light on it. It's impactful, it's powerful. The fact that it took so long for a streaming service to release it just shows how much the impact of it truly was. And I did a whole video about how several streaming services refused it. In fact, Disney tried to sabotage the film, but failed, fortunately. Now it's currently on Amazon Prime or Prime Video, whatever they're calling it now. So you can watch it there. So number 7, The Boy and the Heron. This is the latest from Hayao Miyazaki, who is a brilliant cinematic animator, and he directed the film for Studio Ghibli. It is a triumph for Miyazaki and for Ghibli. You will be mesmerized by its animation and endeared to its emotional story of grief and recovery. And that's really what it is about. It's about a boy who sees his mother die very tragically in a fire, or is aware. He doesn't actually see her die, but he sees the fire that took her life. And then his father gets remarried. And it's just that grief of going through it and then finding this magical world in his new backyard that just takes him by surprise. Up next, we have The Holdovers. The Holdovers is a slow paced and satisfying movie that teaches you about people who seem different but come together in the most unusual but also common ways. And Paul Giamatti is fantastic in this movie. I highly recommend it. If you have not had a chance to watch it, I think you will enjoy it. Like I said, it's a little slow, but it's sort of meant to be slow. It takes its time with describing its story. It's directed by the same guy who did Sideways, which also features Paul Giamatti. And I have a review of Sideways from a few years ago on my website, StudioJakeMedia.com. And I think that you will enjoy both of those films, but make sure the kids are not in the room. All right, up next. Now, I understand this is kind of a more controversial choice. Not a lot of people liked it. It was very mixed as far as the critics were concerned, but it is David Fincher's The Killer, which was released on Netflix. This movie is Fincher at his finest. It is a one-of-the-kind thriller that takes its time and keeps you hooked for its runtime. So basically, it stars Michael Fassbender as this hired hitman, but a hit goes wrong, and the original client who hired him then sends a bunch of assassins after him. They rough up his girlfriend, and so he begins this revenge journey. It's very methodical. It may seem repetitive at times, but I really think it's good. It's fascinating. The music choice is really good. I read one reviewer who didn't like it because the movie features the music of the Smiths, and which is a kind of a rock band. And the reviewer was angry that the Smiths were used in this movie. So it was really an interesting read, but I still think it was good. It had a lot of high quality production values in the movie, and I think that you would enjoy it as well. Okay, so this next one is another one that really took me by surprise. This one I was shocked by how fantastic it is, but coming up in number 4 is Godzilla Minus One. And I love Godzilla movies. I love old ones. I love the more comedy era. I love his anti-hero era. I love his full-on I'm the T-Rex from Jurassic Park era, which that's what this movie is. Godzilla Minus One pays tribute to those early days where he was just this monster that plagued Japan and potentially the rest of humanity. It was one of the best kaiju films I have ever seen. From the time you hear the original Godzilla roar and the theme song, you are hooked to the screen. And basically, what it is, it follows a kamikaze pilot who was a coward and chose not to complete his mission. He lands on a repair station island, which is attacked by Godzilla. And despite pleadings from the engineers on the island, he does nothing. And all but him and one other engineer are killed by Godzilla. When he returns home, he's regarded as a coward, but he kind of makes like a makeshift family with this petty thief that he meets, who she has adopted a war orphan, and the three of them sort of make like a cohesive family. And then Godzilla returns because not because of him, but because of the efforts to remove the mines out of the Pacific Ocean. By making them explode, it awakens Godzilla out of his hibernation, and he's way bigger, and he comes to Tokyo. And it is really fantastic about just the human spirit, about how a man can prove himself to be courageous. I highly recommend it. Whether you're a Godzilla fan or just a fan of good films, this is the one for you. We're at number 3. So the big 3. This is another one that might surprise some people, but the Super Mario Brothers movie, which starred Chris Pratt as Mario, Charlie Day as Luigi, and Jack Black as Bowser. It is a fun thrill ride for children of the 90s and for new fans. You will have a fun time, and it is one that you can bring the whole family to see with you. It is top notch. The breakout star of this is Jack Black. He does a fantastic job as Bowser. Everyone does a good job, by the way. Anya Taylor-Joy is fantastic as Princess Peach, and so on. I really liked it. The only one who didn't make much sense is they got Seth Rogen to voice Donkey Kong. It's so funny how now that he has thrown James Franco and a lot of his early collaborators under the bus, it's clear that he was never the comedic genius. It was always who he was working with. So Hollywood, though, he's kind of a sacred cow of Hollywood these days because he was in all those stoner movies. So they keep trying to redeem him by putting in things like the Super Mario Brothers as Donkey Kong. That's the one problem I had with it, and also making Luigi kind of a manzel in distress. But it is a really good movie. It's a lot of fun. I think you will enjoy it. Okay, so number 2 is the film Air. This is an excellent sports film, and it definitely keeps your attention the whole time. The cast is awesome, and it provides a glimpse, albeit a slightly fictional one, into the early days of an amazing basketball player being Michael Jordan. So if you're unfamiliar with the film, it is about how Nike developed the Air Jordans, and it's got a stellar cast. It's got Ben Affleck, it's got Matt Damon, the Harvey Weinstein bros. That's I jokingly call them that. Doesn't take away from their talent. The two of them are powerhouses in this movie, along with Viola Davis and Chris Tucker. It is really good to see Chris Tucker in a movie again. He's kind of had some bad press lately, but he is a fantastic actor, a really good comedian, and everyone does an amazing job. When I first saw the trailer for this movie, I was expecting it to be boring. Well, it shows what that you can't always judge a movie by its trailer, even though I tend to do that a lot, I admit it. But this movie was really fantastic. It was a slam dunk, if you will, and that's why it is number 2. All right, so we've made it to number 1. Are you ready? I know I am. So, number 1 is Oppenheimer. This shouldn't come as any surprise to anyone. Christopher Nolan is my favorite director. I should say active director. John Milius is probably actually my favorite director, but Christopher Nolan is definitely my favorite director who's active. I tend to like all of his films, including Interstellar. I know it's kind of controversial, but I think Interstellar is a fantastic movie. Same with Oppenheimer. It tells the story of Dr. Oppenheimer, the man behind the invention of the atomic bomb. It is a masterwork of cinematic art. It stands out not just as a biopic, but also as a film that shows how brilliance can be subverted and how one man can change history. And I highly recommend it. There are some random, nudie scenes that don't make a lot of sense in the movie, so just be prepared for that. But it is an amazing film. The acting is incredible. If you have a chance, see it in theaters. I've heard that it's going to be re-released a couple of more times in IMAX. See it there. I think you'll like it. And that's going to conclude the top 10 list. Part 2 will feature my top 10 worst films of 2023. So get ready for that. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you'll give it a thumbs up, that you'll leave me a comment and tell me what you think, that you'll share it out with your friends, and of course, consider subscribing to Studio Jake. I cover all kinds of nerd and pop culture topics, including film, television, anime, comic books, and so much more. I hope that you'll also head over to my main website, StudioJakeMedia.com, where I have even more news, views, and commentary. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, head over to my locals page. That's studiojakemedia.locals.com. It's the best way to support me. I'm trying to build a little community there. I have exclusive reviews and articles, so definitely head over there and check it out. And I'll see you next time, right here on Studio Jake.